What's my name?
Jon Snow?
Lord Ned Stark is my father. And why is my surname Snow?
Wars are won on the battlefield, but kingdoms fall because of secrets whispered in the dark. Robert Baratheon claimed the Iron Throne.
King Robert was strong. He won the rebellion, crushed the Targaryen dynasty.
But not all victories are as clean as the songs claim. In the aftermath of the rebellion, Ned Stark returned to Winterfell carrying a secret. A boy with a name whispered in his sister's dying breath. This is the story of what might have happened if Eddard Stark had told Catelyn the truth about Jon Snow. The storm begins. As Ned Stark approached the gates of Winterfell, the weight of the journey from the Tower of Joy pressed on his shoulders. His mind lingered on the battle, swords clashing, blood soaking the ground, and the sight of Sir Arthur Dayne, possibly the greatest swordsman Ned had ever faced, falling to Howland Reed's desperate strike. But it wasn't Dayne's fall or the deaths of his companions that haunted him most. It was Lyanna. Her voice still echoed in his ears. His name is Aegon Targaryen. You must protect him. Promise me, Ned.
You have to protect him. Promise me, Ned.
Then softening, her voice breaking. Rhaegar, we were married. Forgive me. He had promised. Yet as the walls of Winterfell came into view, doubt crept in. She had died alone and afraid, despite all his efforts. How could he protect the boy if he couldn't even protect her? For a moment, his thoughts shifted to Brandon. Bold, certain, everything Ned wasn't. The title of Lord Stark, the responsibility of Winterfell, even Catelyn's hand, had been meant for him. Brandon would have carried this burden without hesitation.
He was very brave, your brother. And your father, too. They didn't deserve to die like that.
But Brandon was gone, as was Lyanna, and Ned was left to bear the weight of their lives and legacies. Protecting this secret would take more than honour. It would take trust, and there was only one person in Winterfell he could trust completely. The gates opened, and there stood Catelyn, holding their newborn son, Robb. For a brief moment, Ned felt a flicker of hope that he might leave the horrors of the rebellion behind. But that hope vanished as her eyes fell on the baby in his arms. "Whose child is that?" she asked, her voice cold and guarded. Snow and Honour. The godswood was silent, save for the soft rustling of leaves in the cold wind. Catelyn stood beneath the weirwood, her gaze fixed on Ned, who held the child tightly in his arms. "He is my blood," Ned began, his voice low and heavy. Catelyn frowned. "Your blood? What does that mean?" Ned hesitated. His instincts screamed to lie, to let her believe what the realm would whisper, that the boy was his bastard. But Lyanna's voice echoed in his mind. "It means..." His voice broke. He closed his eyes briefly, seeking strength from the weirwood. "It means he is Lyanna's son." Catelyn's breath caught. "Your sister's? What are you saying? Is he a bastard?" Ned tightened his grip on the child. "Lyanna said he is Targaryen. If that's true..." His voice trailed off, his thoughts racing. Rhaegar was married to Elia, but if Lyanna's words are right, he must have married her too. He wouldn't have called him Aegon otherwise. I'll need to find proof. "Proof?" Catelyn asked, her voice trembling. Ned's expression hardened. If he's legitimate, then he might be the only Targaryen left who could claim the throne. If the others are gone... A Targaryen! Catelyn's voice trembled. "Did you bring a Targaryen child into our home? Do you know what this could mean?" "Robert, I know," Ned interrupted sharply, holding the child tighter. "But what choice did I have? I couldn't let him die. Not like..." He stopped, the memory searing his mind. Shattered skulls, blood on the stones of King's Landing. Catelyn's fear hardened. You would risk all of us for this boy. Ned met her gaze, his voice steady despite the storm within. The world must believe he is my bastard. It is the only way to protect him. Catelyn recoiled. Your bastard? You expect me to raise him here, in this house, while the entire realm whispers of your infidelity? I wouldn't ask this if there were any other way, Ned said, his voice soft but unyielding. But Robert's wrath will not stop. He didn't see children, Catelyn. He saw dragon eggs.
I'll kill every Targaryen I get my hands on.
Catelyn turned away, staring at the snow falling beyond the godswood. Her anger simmered, but the weight of Ned's words held her back. He was an honourable man, one who had never lied to her before. Finally, she spoke, her voice tight. What name should he carry? Jon, Ned replied after a pause. Jon Sand? She asked, recalling the Bastards of Dawn.
He was born in a tower in Dawn. His last name isn't really Snow. It's Sand. Dornish bastards are named Sand.
Ned shook his head. No, he must be believed to be mine. He will be Jon Snow. The visit of the Hand. Jon Arryn's arrival at Winterfell had been a welcome interruption, though not without its complications. He had brought Lysa with him, claiming she needed time with her sister and a break from King's Landing. And perhaps, he added with a crooked smile, some time away from me. She could use it, and frankly, so could I. The two men stood in the courtyard, as stable hands attended to their horses. Jon's gaze swept over the stronghold with an approving nod. Your loyalty has never been in question, he said lightly, but Robert insisted I visit, just to check in. Between you and me, I think he missed you at the wedding more than he'd care to admit. Ned's expression hardened. Loyalty shouldn't excuse what happened at the throne room. Jaime Lannister should be at the wall, not in the King's Guard. Jon sighed. I don't disagree, but that was Robert's decision. You know how he is with his friends. Friends, Ned muttered under his breath. Jon chuckled softly, changing the subject. Tell me honestly, Ned, is my breath as bad as Lysa claims? Ned allowed himself a rare smile. No worse than Robert's after a feast. Blood is strong. The godswood felt colder than usual, the rustle of the weirwood's red leaves the only sound as Catelyn and Lysa walked side by side. It's unacceptable, Lysa said abruptly, breaking the silence. Her voice had the sharp edge of someone who had held their tongue for too long. Catelyn stiffened. What is? That boy, that bastard. How can you stand having him in your home, let alone so close to your children? Lysa's tone dripped with disdain. Catelyn's steps slowed. He's no threat to my children. You wouldn't understand. Wouldn't I? Lysa scoffed. You let him live under your roof. Ned's mistake is your burden now. And what will people say? What do they already say? Catelyn stopped walking, turning to face her sister. The chill in the air seemed to seep into her words. The boy is my husband's blood. That is the only thing that matters. Lysa blinked, taken aback by the finality of Catelyn's tone. For a moment, she seemed ready to press further, but Catelyn's cold stare silenced her. Without another word, Catelyn turned sharply, her skirts brushing against the frost-covered grass as she strode away, leaving Lysa standing alone beneath the weirwood. But Catelyn's words, meant to end the conversation, lingered in Lysa's mind. To her, they were no more than a sharp defence of her husband's honour, another barb in the endless competition between them. Yet words have a way of travelling, twisting as they go, and when they reached the wrong ears, they carried a weight neither sister could have anticipated. A spark, small but enough to ignite whispers in the dark corners of the realm.
My little birds are everywhere, even in the north.
The breaking point. 13 years later, Ned was in the courtyard, ice resting on a bench as he passed a cloth along its edge. The northern winds bit at his cheeks, but his thoughts were elsewhere, on the man he had executed that morning, and the quiet pride he felt in Bran's composure. I don't know how you stand the cold, Catelyn said, as she approached, her hands clasped tightly before her. "We've had worse," Ned replied with a faint smile. "You didn't come here to talk about the weather, did you?" Catelyn hesitated, her fingers gripping the folds of her dress. "No, my lord. A raven arrived from King's Landing." Ned stopped polishing the blade and looked at her. "What news?" "It's Jon Arryn," Catelyn said, taking a step closer, her voice trembling. "He's dead, Ned. The raven carried Robert's seal. It said Jon's death was sudden, but even Maester Pycelle could save him."
Jon Arryn is dead. A fever took him. I know he was like a father to you.
Ned's face darkened, and for a moment, the weight of grief overcame him. "Jon," he whispered, "and Lysa, their boy." "The message said they're safe. They've returned to the Eyrie," Catelyn replied. "But there's more." She pulled a second parchment from her cloak, her face pale. This came with it. Ned unfolded the parchment, and his eyes narrowed as he read the familiar handwriting. "To my old friend, Eddard Stark. Whispers have reached even here. I will not have my throne threatened by shadows and secrets. If there is nothing to hide, send me the boy. I must see for myself. You know your duty, Ned. Don't force my hand. Robert Baratheon, King of the Andals and the First Men." Ned's jaw tightened as he lowered the letter. "I've been waiting for this," he said quietly, his voice heavy with resignation. "Since the day I brought him home, I knew it might come to this, but knowing doesn't make it easier." Catelyn's expression remained unreadable, though her hands trembled slightly as she clasped them before her. Robert wouldn't send a letter like this unless he truly believed there was something to find. Ned exhaled, his shoulders sagging under the weight of her words. "He was my brother once, but now he sees only the shadow of a dragon." He paused, his voice firm but filled with sorrow. Silence fell between them, broken only by the cold wind brushing through the courtyard. Finally, Ned placed the letter down with deliberate care, his fingers brushing the worn parchment. "We've prepared for this moment as best we could. If Robert comes north," Ned said, his voice heavy with sorrow as his hand gripped the hilt of ice, "he'll find no boy here, only wolves." The truth revealed. Jon stepped into the tower, the heavy door creaking as he closed it behind him. The room was dimly lit, the fading daylight casting long shadows across Ned Stark's face. "You called for me, father?" Jon asked, his voice uncertain. "Yes, Jon," Ned replied, his tone grave. "It's time." "Time for what?" "For the truth," Ned said, his eyes heavy with the weight of the words. "The day I promised would come, the day I tell you about your mother."
The next time we see each other, we'll talk about your mother.
Jon froze, his heart pounding. He had dreamed of this moment, but now that it was here, fear crept into his chest. "The truth," Ned continued, "is that I am not your father, but I swore to protect you as if I were." Jon staggered, the words colder than any northern wind. What are you saying?" "You are Lyanna's son," Ned said, his voice steady but filled with sorrow. "My sister. She died bringing you into this world. And your father..." He hesitated, then met Jon's gaze. "Your father was Rhaegar Targaryen." Jon's breath caught, disbelief and anger flashing across his face. "Rhaegar? The man Robert hated more than anyone?" "Yes," Ned said firmly. "And now Robert comes for you. He knows, or soon will. We must prepare." Jon stared at Lord Stark with a mix of fear and determination. "What does that mean for me? For us?" Ned placed a hand on Jon's shoulder, his grip firm. "It means war, Jon. The North will protect you, but you must be ready." Ned's voice grew heavier as he spoke the final words. "Winter is coming, and the North will rise to defend its own."
And winter is coming.
Did you enjoy this What If? What other theories would you like to see? Let us know in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe.